Hello and welcome to NOV Live. I'm Michael Gaines and glad you're joining us today as we bring you technical experts and expert analysis of technology that is helping shape our world in the energy industry. And we are certainly glad that you're going to be joining us as we talk about natural gas from the ground to your home. It's a topic that we know many folks are curious about. Some know a lot about it, and many are going to, for the first time, hear from our expert on how the process works. So if you've ever had a question on how natural gas gets to your home, or have just wanted to hear more from an expert on the topic, today is your day. So glad you're joining us. In order to make sure that you are able to be a part of our conversation today, I want to bring in NOV's expert on all things social, Shelby Dumaine, to talk about how you can be a part of today's conversation. Hey, Shelby, good to see you.
Hey, Michael, it's great to see you as well. So if you're watching right now, there's a couple different ways you can get involved. The first and maybe the easiest is by commenting. If you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, I am in the comment section throughout the entire show. So you can let us know if you have a question or even a comment for our guest or for Michael even. And so you can leave those in there. We're going to get to as many of those audience questions at the end of the show as we can. And then afterwards, if you wanted to get in touch with us, you can actually email us. We have an email. It's socialmedia@nov.com. So you can reach out to us there. I did also want to mention, if you ever wanted to see any past episodes of NOV Live, you can view those at nov.com/live. So those are all the different ways. I love seeing everyone's comments, seeing where everyone's watching from, tuning in. We usually get viewers all over the world. So I love seeing that. If you want to let us know where you're watching. And then again, if you have any questions at any point, the comment section is where we'd love to see those. And so those are all the different ways that you can ask us your questions. But now it's time where I'm going to ask you a question from us. So it's time for Rig Geek Post of the Week.
Rig Geeks Post of the Week.
All right. As Michael mentioned, we are talking about natural gas today. And so our question appropriately is a fun little trivia question. I'm curious to see if our Rig Geeks in the audience know. We're asking, in 2019, what U.S. state produced the most natural gas? So if you think you know which U.S. state produced the most natural gas in 2019, go ahead and comment that now. And we're going to see at the end of the show how many of you got that right. So I'm curious to see what everyone thinks. And I look forward to seeing all of your questions and comments in the comment section.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Shelby. Well, as we mentioned earlier, we wanted to be able to provide an opportunity to give a little insight into the process that many times we take for granted or might not know a lot about. Similar to electricity or other things where we are able to interact on the end point, we don't necessarily have as much visibility upstream. So likewise, today, we wanted to get some insight from one of NOV's experts and understand how the process of natural gas is not only harnessed, but also transported. So to help us understand a little more about that today, we have the opportunity to talk with Chris Makselon, the VP of Strategy and Market Growth, Oil and Gas here at NOV. So Chris, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, I always like to never assume that folks who are joining or watching, fully understand kind of what words and terms and phrases, right? Words matter. So, when we're talking about natural gas, what are we really discussing, and what medium are we talking about?
Sure. Natural gas is a fossil energy source when we're talking about it, and it comes to us through a process that started over hundreds of millions of years ago, and it started as tiny marine plants and animals died, and as they fell to the ocean floor over time, were buried by layers of salt or I'm sorry, silt and sand. And with with the added heat and pressure over millions of years, that eventually turned them into oil and natural gas. And today we actually drill down into these rock formations and where the natural gas and oil is trapped and produce it from those locations.
Hmm. Okay, so when we're looking at that, and we're talking about the gas that ultimately is trapped down there, how do we get to this trapped natural gas?
So traditionally, the way the natural gas would be produced would be through what we would refer to as conventional drilling techniques, and this is what everybody thinks of when they think of drilling for oil and gas. The producers would drill into these pockets of either gas or oil and gas, and once the well was drilled, would flow that gas to surface. But here in recent years, starting around 2005 or so, you hear people discussing production of shale gas, and as new technologies have really evolved in techniques of horizontal drilling and fracturing, it's allowed us to access more of the gas that's trapped in some of these unconventional production locations throughout the United States.
Okay, and so I know that there are different plays and geographies and different setups, but for our conversation today, which I suspect you're talking mainly kind of in the U.S. basins, where do we find the natural gas that we use today?
Sure. So surprisingly, if you look at just the numbers from 2019, 5 of the top 35 natural gas producing states accounted for roughly 69% of the total dry natural gas production in the U.S. Leading the way was Texas, and you see some of the traditional producing states in the list as well, such as Louisiana and Oklahoma. But with the advances in the horizontal drilling and fracking and shale production, you see some of these other states that you might not necessarily associate with gas production, such as Pennsylvania and Ohio, on the list. And that's really a direct result of some of those new technologies that have allowed us to access some of the gas in these locations as well.
Okay, so so let's say we're out on a rig, we're drilling. Of course, we now get into a production zone. We're able to then capture, of course, the oil, but also the natural gas that is produced there. So from there, how do we then take that natural gas and get it from on location to powering homes and businesses?
Sure. Yeah. If you look at, I think there's a good graphic that comes from our U.S. EIA that you can see up on the screen now. It kind of walks you through the entire process. At the far left, you see kind of the start of the production, where the producers drill the gas wells or the oil gas wells, and as that gas is coming to surface, it's typically separated because you do have either water or oil or maybe some other components that come up out of the wells with that. And once it's separated, it's then gathered into central facilities, gas processing plants, where it's processed, and some of those unwanted byproducts or whatnot are removed. After that point, you get what's typically referred to as sales gas or pipeline quality gas, which then can be used for either power generation or distribution to homes for heating. And in a lot of the cases, as that goes through our main transmission network, which is typically a series of pipelines throughout the United States, it then either goes directly to power plants and is used to generate electricity, or if it's delivered to a natural gas company, it can then be sent to us as consumers, whether it be to fire our stoves or heat our homes or things of that nature, and help run our businesses and run our manufacturing facilities.
So I know that you and your team actually play a role somewhere in that process. For those that aren't as familiar, Chris, how do you and your colleagues play a role in the overall process, and what product lines do you have that help in the natural gas either delivery process, I guess is what we're talking about today?
Sure. Pretty much anywhere throughout that whole process that I described, we have products that can help end users and distribution companies with delivering that natural gas to the end locations, especially when there's areas of corrosion, and that's an issue. We specialize in composite piping, composite structures and tanks, things of that nature, non-metallic. So anytime you have a corrosive environment, composites are a great fit for that. If you start on the production side of it, at the actual wells, we have a series of downhole tubing and casing that helps you actually lift the gas and associated water and oil out of the wells. Again, in typically highly corrosive environments, the composite is definitely a great choice for those types of applications. When you're also looking at shale gas production, that typically requires a tremendous amount of water, especially for the fracking operations. So we have a series of products called our Star Super Seal Key Lock that allow you to build these water infrastructure systems that can not only deliver that water to the locations to facilitate the fracking, but also take that water back as those wells produce. In a lot of those cases, that water comes back highly corrosive. So again, not the best environment for your traditional steel pipelines. So composites are a great alternative there. You also combine that with the lightweight nature of the product, and the fast installation allows these operators to really build out these systems very quickly. As you go further down the process, now you're talking about getting that gas to the actual central gathering facilities and gas plants, so it can be processed to what I referred to earlier as sales gas. Sometimes these are high pressure lines, and you need to connect these remote wells in some cases to these facilities. So you've also got options there to run either continuous composite lines or traditional jointed fiberglass lines, such as our FiberSpar product line and our Star product line. These types of lines can either carry the gas themselves or everything that's coming out of that well. And again, the corrosive resistant nature of the product is really good for any of those applications where there's really aggressive chemicals or other things coming out of the well bore associated with that production. Once you get to the facilities, you now have to separate that oil and gas, like I had talked about earlier. So we've got a series of products that are specifically designed for doing that directly on site in these facilities. We've got a line of horizontal gun barrels that help break out the gas from the fluid stream, separating it from any water and oil. That tends to be your first level of separation. Then water and oil is typically stored in tanks. Fiberglass tanks can help resist some of the corrosion there as well. And we've got a series of piping systems that allow operators to really do some complex pipe designs within their facilities to help transport all these components that we've been talking about. You can see in the photo on the screen now, a wide range of valves and complex piping systems are easily achievable with these types of products. And then as you go further down the list too, we didn't really talk about it. We've been focusing it on onshore production, but there's also a tremendous amount of natural gas that's produced offshore. And especially in areas where there's an abundance of natural gas, more than can be consumed domestically, people are actually liquefying the natural gas and exporting it. So there's a tremendous amount of fiberglass composite products that we provide for the offshore market as well. So not only are you getting the benefit of the corrosion resistance of the composites, but also the lightweight nature really helps in saving the overall weight of these vessels, which is a real critical component in in designing these systems as well. So, we do, we've just touched on just the surface of natural gas production in the discussion here, but there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for end users to be using composites, across that entire supply chain, if you will, of natural gas to the actual houses themselves.
Mm. So if you're just joining us, our guest today is the VP of Strategy and Market Growth, Oil and Gas, Mr. Chris Makselon. And so if you have a question for Chris, or have a question about natural gas transport from the field to businesses and homes, feel free to put your question in the comment section, whether you're watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And so, Chris, I actually had a question for you, actually a question for myself. So, I know that we've been talking and looking at several images showing the fiberglass pipe, and so I just kind of wanted to understand some of the basics there, especially when you're looking at overall repair and maintenance, and being able to deploy in the field. What are some of those considerations or benefits that you see there, and some of the benefits from end users that utilize this type of pipe?
Yeah, great question. I think, one of the key things is, I touched on it, the corrosion resistance, right? There's a tremendous amount of money spent today on integrity management, integrity monitoring, corrosion inhibition and protection to, the traditional methods for pipelining out there are steel, and steel inherently, corrodes, rusts, and fails over time. That's one of the benefits of the composites, especially for end users, is you install these types of technologies, and they're designed with 20-year design lives on them, and you're not having to worry about those types of corrosion related issues. The other aspect of it is just from an installation standpoint, these systems have joining types and technologies that really facilitate rapid installations. And then also the strength to weight ratio of the composite pipelines compared to some of the alternatives make it really easy to handle. So now you're also getting the benefits on the front end when you're building out your systems with these types of products.
Yeah, and so I'm sure that the installation and resulting activities, especially in the field, are certainly major considerations when deploying, either miles or kilometers of this type of product. So that makes sense.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is a really good overview and really helpful. So I know that as always, you and the team really put a lot of effort into providing additional resources for folks to read on their own. Where can people that are watching this either live or post recorded, where can they go to read some more information on the fiberglass solutions?
Sure. I think the best place to go is to our website. It's at nov.com/FGS. You can see it there on the screen. And you could actually find out a lot more information on a lot of the, like you said, on a lot of the products that you saw in the photos. And there's links there for different product catalogs, and then also how to reach out to us to, find out where in that natural gas supply chain some of these products fit and how it might work for, some of your applications.
Well, I always like to make sure that we get questions from our audience in, because those are the real questions that I know you want to answer. So for that, we'll go ahead and bring Shelby in and see what questions came up. I saw some coming in just as we transitioned over here, so it looks like some good conversation.
Absolutely, Michael. So this first question, we actually got a question on LinkedIn about natural gas in France, and I wanted to maybe elaborate on this question a little bit more, if you don't mind, just because we hear a lot about the U.S. market and natural gas there. Can you talk a little bit about maybe non-U.S. markets for natural gas?
Sure. I think, for the most part, the overall process and delivery would be the same. When we talk about the final legs of the distribution and where pipelines actually are bringing the natural gas to homes and to the businesses and the end consumers, that tends to be a very regulated segment of the market. So depending on the geographic location, whether it be the U.S., France, the governing bodies within those regions have different rules and regulations for proper design and construction, and even monitoring the integrity of these pipelines to ensure safe and reliable supply of the natural gas to these homes and end consumers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so this next one, I want to preface, I think a lot of people out there are kind of curious right now, especially about performance in different weather conditions. So I kind of want to ask you, both on the hot end, also the extreme cold end, what kind of pressures, how does that affect the performance of fiberglass pipe?
Sure, great question. These products are tested at maximum temperatures. We're talking, 150 degrees Fahrenheit, in some cases 210 degrees Fahrenheit, and are capable of services down to, sub-freezing. So when it comes to performance, these products maintain their mechanical strength, their joint integrity, and overall, service life isn't affected by wide temperature ranges. When we're talking about pressures, same thing. The pressure is typically at that rated temperature, and some of these products capable of 3,000 psi or even higher.
And we just got one. I think it kind of maybe is on that same line, just asking more about pressure. So Wasu on LinkedIn was wondering, how do we manage that natural gas pressure? How do we ensure that that pressure doesn't fall below expected values?
So depending on what portion of the supply chain, ultimately, there's especially as you look down towards the final distribution, there are techniques for maintaining gas pressures. Compression is one of the main ones to keep the line pressures above certain levels. But there's also storage techniques, storage facilities where natural gas is stored, waiting for spikes in demand. So it can quickly be compressed and fed into the system to satisfy any increase in demand and not have a drop in pressure or a drop in supply.
No, that's really, really good perspective. Maybe one last question. As you continue to look at the landscape for fiberglass pipe, and as you look at opportunities to implement this, I'm curious in a broad sense, what are some of the things on the horizon that you're focused on? I know that you're constantly talking to folks internally and externally, and as I always like to say, I'm not asking you to give the secret sauce, but what are things that you're focused on as we continue through this year and the next?
Sure. Great question. And actually, it's associated with kind of that last segment of the supply chain I was talking about, the actual distribution, and dealing with and working with the regulatory bodies and working on codes and specifications that are adopting the new technologies. You see a lot of the latest technology on the market now. For example, like our Duraflex product is a thermoplastic based spoolable composite pipe. Well, today, most commonly what's running to houses is a thermoplastic pipe. So this is just the next level of technology that allows for higher performance in these types of products, and working with these regulators and getting these types of products adopted and approved for those types of applications is really where the next kind of front and horizon is for this type of stuff.
Well, and I know I said my last question, but as I was just kind of recalling as we were talking, and I was looking at some of the graphics, it looked like some diverse landscapes, which then kind of got my mind thinking, okay, so obviously you are making sure that the product is where it needs to be for the customer. So when you're looking at your manufacturing facilities, what does that footprint look like? Because I'm sure there's some intentionality on making sure it's where it needs to be to serve the customers.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a global footprint from a manufacturing standpoint, and manufacturing facilities coinciding with all the major oil and gas development areas, whether it be in North America, South America, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia.
Okay. And so do you have a rough number of number of facilities?
Off the top of my head, we have, I'd say probably about 7 or 8 specifically focused for oil and gas, with maybe 15 on top of that.
Okay. No, that's great. Good. Great. Well, no, I appreciate it. I think this was really, really insightful. And again, just for folks, if you have additional questions or would like to read some additional material that maybe we weren't able to cover today, the website that you can visit to get that information, NOV.com/FGS. And there's also a contact button on the website as well. So if there's something specific that you have or would like some specifications, the team, including Chris, I'm sure will be more than happy to answer your questions. So Chris, appreciate you sharing your insight. I've actually learned more in the last few minutes than I feel like I have trying to search my own for the last little bit. So thanks for the perspective insight.
Sure. Thank you. I'm
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get Shelby to provide some perspective on our Rig Geek post of the week and get that answer to you. I know that that folks are always liking to like to know that they're rising to the challenge, to the trivia challenge, like to say, but it's more than trivia. It's heavy hitting insight there. So what do we have, Shelby? Oh, I think you're muted. Though that is the phrase of, I almost would say the phrase of the century is you're muted.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, hopefully this week's wasn't too heavy hitting, because we did mention it there. I don't know if our listeners were listening closely. Chris did spoil the answer a little bit there, but I don't mind. I'll let him do that. But we did actually get some Rig Geeks got it before then. So we have that Rig Geek question again was, which U.S. state produced the most natural gas in 2019? And proud to say it was Texas. That's the answer this week. Proud of our state. But that was the most the state that produced the most natural gas in 2019 was Texas.
All right. Well, there you go. Cool. Well, thanks, Shelby. Appreciate that. Again, a special thanks to our guest, and certainly appreciative for you tuning in to NOV Live. We look forward to having continued conversations with you. And as always, if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics, feel free to put them in the comments section here, or you can reach out to us live on our weekly shows. So on behalf of everyone here at NOV, thank you for watching and for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.